Hey guys, how's it going? Well, I've had some time now to look at this car a little closer and drive it some, and I've drawn some conclusions as far as what it needs to have done to it to get it roadworthy, get it shaped up. So I've made a little list out here, little list, and I thought we would just kind of run through this as efficiently as possible. So let's start with what's going on under the hood of it. Now this car runs pretty good. It's not perfect, it's not running great, it idles good and responds to the gas okay most of the time, but it's got a definite flat spot in it about mid-range. You try to cramp down on the accelerator and it just sort of doesn't do anything, doesn't react. It kind of noses over and then it'll sort of take off and pick back up and stuff. So this has got the lean burn on it. You can see the box on the side of the air cleaner, and to my knowledge that's still operating at whatever capacity it's able to. I've not pulled the air cleaner off and not even touched anything on this, so it should have a Holley 6280 carburetor under there, which is a 2-barrel, which has the mixture control solenoid which is tied into that. So that, along with the distributor back there, is more or less intended to be controlled by the computer. So mixture is controlled, the timing advance, spark curves controlled, all that's controlled by the computer. So now normally, you know, I don't like to mess with things, I like to leave them pretty original, but this is a very, very crude system. There's no real diagnostics to do on it to tell if it's working. It may be working right, may not be, so you just don't know. You can go in and take a probe and kind of do some probing around and see what kind of blips you get off of it, but I'm not interested in that. So I'm gonna, at some point pretty soon, I've got another carburetor and I'm gonna get another distributor and just swap this thing over to standard ignition and standard carburetor and just do away with I'll leave the lean burn on there, the air cleaner and all that, just for looks, but otherwise it's going to be disabled because I just don't like them. I don't run good with them most of the time, so we'll get into that later. But the first thing you'll notice is going on, it's got some broken vacuum lines under there, which that'll definitely contribute to a problem like that, so maybe just fixing that will help it. But if you look down in there, that one, there's a saw vacuum line. It's got these nylon vacuum lines, and there's one that is disconnected totally from the EGR valve under there. It's supposed to be connected right in there, and that has nothing connected to it anymore, so that's open to the atmosphere. It's leaking vacuum. And these are, like I said, nylon vacuum lines, and they're up in these looms, so there's no telling what kind of shape those things are in. So I'm going to have to go in and examine each and every one of those and see what's what with them, but suffice to say they're going to need to be dealt with. So next thing is alternator belts. I said alternator belts and hoses. Look at this alternator belt over here. It's kind of that. Push on that one, it's not too bad. You push on that one, it's going way out. So I don't know why that is, unless the alternator was sitting. It looks kind of, something looks a little strange right there. Looks like it's kind of off center. So we'll need to be looking at those brackets too when we put belts on it. And yes, all the other belts have to come off to get those off. Yay. And the hoses, same deal with the hoses. Hoses look old. And they don't look bad up here, but if you look down in here, there's a bypass hose there. That's that big one, and those are known to just spontaneously, because they make a 90-degree bend in it. And the worst part is, look back there, look how swollen out that radiator hose is right there around the clamps. That thing at the bottom that's spread out, that's the radiator hose. So that's not good at all. And somebody's already put a section of hose on there right here, so they've obviously blown a hose already, so we gotta deal with that. So belts and hoses, definitely. Replace the horns. Well, that's funny because I was messing around with this car and I was checking out things. You remember I pressed the horn and all I heard was a click. Alright, well, that means the relay's working, but the horns aren't. So I went out here to see what's up with the horns, and there are no horns. There's wiring to them. If you had horns, that's what we connect to them to run them. But they're supposed to be, one's supposed to be under there, and one is supposed to be right there. But they are not there. So I don't understand why someone would take the horns off a car like this. But they did. They surely did. So no horns. So I've located a couple horns and got them, and hopefully they'll work. I'm going to replace the horns. Change oil in the filters. That's just normal stuff because it's full of oil, but the oil looks pretty black. I don't know how long it's been since it's been changed. See there, it's pretty black. So just go ahead and do that. Get it back in there. And I hadn't even looked at the air filter. Somebody's, like Traveling Cub said, somebody's been into that carburetor because it looks like it's been rebuilt, but they didn't help it. They did. Replace the shocks. That is because this thing drives pretty good, but it has this kind of a strange seesaw effect when you go over bumps. It's like one side is reacting more than the other. So when I pushed on the car up here, this side just barely rebounds any, but this side over here definitely feels like it's bouncing more. So one shock's okay, one shock's weak. All right, well, go to the back here, and this one feels fine on this side, but this one over here is sort of boingy. Not bad, but it's a little bit weaker. So if nothing else, this weak right front shock would explain that. So order says shocks for it because I don't carry them locally anymore. Repair, replace noisy wheel bearing. I heard a wheel bearing. I drove around a while. I drove around the block up, made this circle up there, and that was enough. I could hear a wheel bearing making a noise up here. Kind of a roll, 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 roll. It's not real loud, but it's probably this one because I know it's a wheel bearing because you put the brakes on and it goes away. So that's normally a wheel bearing problem. So we'll get into that. We'll pull the wheel off and the rotor and see what's up. Turn the rotors. It's got, believe it or not, it's got some rotor problems with it. Went through that shit with that car over there non-stop. But they're kind of, when you put the brakes on at low speeds, they're kind of doing this thing. So you have to be dealt with. So okay, skip down some stuff here. What do we still got outside here? Replace the broken headlight adjusters. That's these things here, and they're just these little plastic contraptions they push in, and then the screws screw into them, and theoretically they hold it in place. Well, as you can see, that one's busted. The one over there is okay. One there's okay. That one's busted. That one's busted. And the one on the outside down there is okay. So it's what, 4 of them busted. So the parts store wants to screw you over on these things real bad, and so you pack of 2 of them. 2 you can use and 2 you can't use, and a pack of 4 for $6 and something. I'm not about to do that. So Rock Auto, along with the shocks, has got those available, like $1.69 or $1.89 the 2-pack. So guess what I'm going to do? Repair the wiper linkage. That's Chrysler's famous problem with the wipers. I persisted on this for years with these crummy. I did that wrong, didn't I? Maybe I didn't, I don't know. Anyway, if you look down in there, you probably won't be able to see it, but maybe you can. I can't see, I can't stick my head far enough in there, but you're probably going to see a piece of linkage laying down in there. It's not connected to the wiper motor any longer. That's because that the grommet thing, the bushing broke apart on it. That's exactly what happened on that truck I had, that other old pickup I had for a while. So I have to do that. The only saving grace is that it's out here at least. It's not under the dashboard. Replace the wipers. I did that already, so I marked through that one, and replaced some bulbs. I had to put a bulb in each corner light here and one small one in the fronts up here. The rest of them are okay. A few other things. The battery here, this is the wrong battery. I think they put another battery in this, because the one that was in it was not this one, and it was dead as a doornail when I went down to drive this. And the cables are shoddy. They've got these ends on them, which I don't like. But look at this negative cable. I don't know what's going on with this. It comes down, comes down, comes down, and then there's something in here. I always dread unwrapping a mysterious lump in a wire like this, because usually that means somebody has sectioned together a cable, and that is not good. So we'll have to do the unwrap the mummy act on that cable, I guess, at some point, and replace them. The negative I'm not too worried about. It's not no big deal to replace it, but that positive, I'd like to find one that's the original style, because it's got different ones coming off of it. I don't want them, I think, is the power to the, not sure what that is. I have to look into that. It's dirty on here. I'm going to have to get the pressure washer out here. I'm going to pressure wash this engine bay. I'm not going to clean the engine off just to make Uncle Phil upset. You know, he's so OCD about greasy engines. I'm not going to clean it. As far as I'm concerned, it earned all this grime. So, all right. So inside, we have a few things going on inside that need to be addressed. Also, of course, you saw the column. This thing, I didn't know exactly what the situation was, but I figured it was something similar to the GM Saginaw columns. Well, come find out, these are just a version of a GM Saginaw column, so they have the same stupid problem that goes wrong with those. And you got 4 bolts that are way down in there, faced in down there, and you have to take this thing all the way apart, dig this thing out and everything, and get in there and Loctite those things and tighten them back up. Can you believe that? Well, okay, so that's that. I got to do that because it won't come off high beams because of that. And the radio deal with the radio, was it the radio that was not working? Oh yeah, I was trying to get things to work on accessories. Nothing would come on. Well, I fooled around with it, moved the column up and down, and it started coming on. So that's something I ought to do with this. So, long story short, I have to deal with this column. That's something I'm going to do first thing, probably. And it's a snapped off defroster handle. If I ever locate one of these cars again in the junkyard, I'll grab one. And it does indeed have automatic climate control that is not working because all the vacuum lines are busted off of it. I don't really want to get down there and show you, but maybe we can see just from the outside here. But got looking at these lines up here and this is a supply coming from the engine, this purple and violet one, and it's capped off with a cap, and then all the rest of these under here just about don't go to anything anymore. And you see that piece of you see a piece of plastic on that one that just fell off. Well, that thing there, that's the remnant of the connector that goes on the back of the control up there. It used to have at least a let me get out of here, hurt my back. Anyway, it's got a, if you can envision, all those vacuum lines come up to this little rubberized thing, like a rubber plug, like a, well, okay, think of it this way. Think of that the back of that control up there has about 6 vacuum ports on it that stick out. And they made this plug with those plastic lines affixed to it that just stuck on there. So you didn't have to take all these individual vacuum lines off and get them mixed up and all that. So that thing now, like all these cars, has turned into dust. So all that fell apart, so there's no vacuum signal to it, there's no vacuum coming out of it, there's no nothing. So that's why it doesn't work. So I've got to take that apart and fix that and put a bulb in it. And that's about it in here. It you know, it's not bad. I got a thing for that, I think. I think I got the right one. Maybe not. But I tell you though, the overriding impression I get about this car is that It makes me think of a car that an older person had, and I'm not trying to down older people, but an older person probably had that didn't drive it much, so all this little stuff started going wrong with it, and they just never bothered to fix it because all they used it for was just to drive slowly. So they didn't care about headlights pointing down because they never drove at night. They didn't care about, you know, the heat not coming out where it's, you know, they just let stuff like that go. And they probably, you know, their probably intentions were in a good place, but they just didn't, ultimately they just didn't take very good care of it as time went on. So, but we can fix all that. It's nothing major. So, you know, it like I said, the engine sounds good. Transmission seems to work fine. This is a roller cam 318. It's basically the same engine as the later TBI versions, and it's supposed to have a 904 with a lockup converter in it. And it does have a lockup converter, but it could be a 904, it could be a 998, it could be a 999, who knows. They put different ones in them, so I don't know. But anyway, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this thing over and get this crap off of it. Do not like a dirty. Now, I don't worry about the engine. That doesn't bother me because, like I said, this engine's a working engine, and it doesn't have to be a museum piece. But all this grunge on here where it's just been sitting, it's got to go. Don't like that. So, all right, guys. Well, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your comments, and I'll try to reply to as many as possible. Have a good one.